Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
Grandma, what is new with you?
Nothing. We're in the city. It's been a beautiful week. Thank heavens. We're getting a beautiful fall day. And actually, this week is the end of summer, officially.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm ready for fall. I've changed over my closets, got all my winter sweaters ready. Gray pants, black pants are coming out, replacing white and navy. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. And I love a new season.
Yes.
It's new beginnings, and the only thing the leaves haven't started changing yet, so we're lucky. We have another couple of weeks for that.
Mm-hmm. And it feels good to be back in the city. Like, I feel like I look at my calendar and I'm not like, oh, then I'm going to go to the Hamptons and then this or that.
A lot less driving.
Yeah.
A lot less driving. I'm so happy about that. I mean, there's nothing good about that trip east. So,
no, but
the traffic in
now,
New York isn't so good either.
Oh, yeah, it's honestly terrible.
So, but hopefully the United Nations is over this week, so we'll have less traffic going uptown and downtown, and we'll get on with our business. But we had a great time in the meatpacking this weekend, and for those who might have seen some of the pictures you posted, we really had a great lunch, and we walked around the area down there. It's so beautiful near the High Line and the Whitney Museum, and everybody should do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
there were a lot of people out and about.
Oh my gosh,
good people watching.
It's great. Not only people watching, it makes the city feel so alive when you go to different neighborhoods that you're not familiar with that much, and you see what's going on in those areas and the activity.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. I loved it.
And I'm pretty familiar with that area. I feel like I'm there a lot.
Well, you're there a lot. I'm not there that often, so it always is a treat for me.
Yeah. So to get ready for our guest this week, we have Carrie Berk on, who's actually been on our podcast before. She came on last year. She is an influencer. She's a writer. She had co-authored multiple children's and young adults novel series along with her mom. And there was the Cupcake Club, Fashion Academy, and Ask Emma. And she also had her style website, Carrie Chronicles. But now she has her new book, My Real Life Rom-Com, How to Build Confidence and Write Your Own Relationship Rules, which is available now. It came out this past Tuesday. So to get prepared for her, I wanted to talk about a CDC report in February of this year found that nearly 3 in 5 teenage girls in the U.S. felt sad or hopeless.
It's
1
terrible.
in 3 considered attempting suicide. That's 60% increase from a decade ago. So thinking about this generationally, Grandma, like, was this discussion ever present about mental health and anxiety, especially when it comes to relationships for you, or do you see it coming up more in the last few years?
I can honestly say, Kim, growing up as a child in a suburban area of New York, it was never discussed. It might have been, it was certainly there behind the scenes, but nobody talked about mental illness. And there were some suicides during my childhood that we didn't know was suicide. We all of a sudden, the person just died, and they made up excuses why they died. But it was always there, but not as prevalent. First of all, I think the media has created a lot of issues for young people today, and they're striving for something that is not realistic. We've discussed this very often. I don't think some of the dating is realistic. I don't think some of the educational goals are realistic for everybody.
And appearance, the way someone looks.
Exactly. And that we're looking for role models that are really not role models. My role model was Golda Meir. I mean, or Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
You're so perfect. You wanted to be a lawyer and not an influencer.
Or a politician or somebody that was going to do something for society. We didn't know what an influencer was, Kimberly. There was no such thing as that. But, there were always issues. And I think Carrie's book will talk about what's happening today.
Yeah. It's not like zero being like no mental illness to like suicide.
No, of course not.
Of course, there's a huge spectrum in between, and everyone probably deals on some level with something.
Absolutely.
So it's like people are functioning every day with these things, but you can be...
But some people are overwhelmed.
Yeah, and
that's what happens.
Yeah, and you can be like in therapy, or like it's not only like you're medicated or you're not. It's like there's a whole spectrum of these kind of
Correct,
things.
correct.
So we're going to get into a little bit of that with Carrie and talk about the book. So hope you all enjoy. Carrie, welcome back to Excuse My Grandma. Second time on the podcast. We haven't talked to you since March of 2022. Grandma Gail and I recorded a little intro before this, but we're excited to talk to you, get into the book. So welcome back.
Thank you. This is my favorite podcast.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
so happy.
That's a really amazing compliment. Thank
And
you.
I don't listen to podcasts really, so
You're like, for all of the ones that I listen to, which is just yours, we
Exactly.
We like you for that. We like you for that. We need one more fan.
Right, exactly. So just to remind our viewers, tell us your age, relationship status, and where you live.
Yeah, it's different than last time, so we definitely have
oh
to.
yeah. So I'm 20. I live in New York City and I'm in a relationship.
Very nice. So I guess the last time we talked to you, you were 18, 19? If it was
Yeah,
March
March
2022.
2022. I was 19.
Okay.
19, yeah.
Teenager, now you're an adult.
No
So-
longer a teen.
Crazy.
Okay, so I want to talk about the book, My Real Life Rom-Com. Love the title. Tell us about what the book is about and what inspired you to write it. Love the cover.
Yeah, Nigel Barker shot the cover. I was fangirling so hard. I feel like he did such a fantastic job.
So fun.
Yeah, so my real life rom-com, I like to call it, a Gen Z Sex in the City. So it's like a memoir manifesto about my experiences in dating as a teenager, young adult. And I talk about like each chapter is dedicated to a different guy that I've crossed paths with. And I talk about like my adventures in dating, my misadventures in dating, all the mistakes I've made along the way, what I learned from them. And it was very important to me that in this book, I wasn't like being very dictatorial, like telling people who to date, how to date, but instead just presenting my experiences and the things I learned from them and letting people take what they will, because you really just learn the best through experience. I feel like if I'm just giving you a list of dating advice, that's not very exciting. There are already so many of those out there written by experts, which are great, but I feel like there's nothing really like this out there, at least not that I've seen very often. So I wanted to fill that void. I feel like it's something that teenagers can really relate to. I think a fun gift for moms to give their daughters and, read with them. It's a fun conversation starter. It's really just, a fun, entertaining book with some heartfelt, vulnerable moments that you can take away.
Sounds great. That is a great gift, great holiday gift. I
Yeah.
love the idea.
Yeah. Wait, so I have so many questions about your experience writing it. Was it like you, right after the dates with these guys or the experience with these guys, you were writing your personal journal, or was it after the fact reflecting on all of these experiences in order to write the book?
So most of them were written pretty close to the moments themselves. And you can kind of tell in the book because the details are so vivid and they're very real. Like the dialogue is so specific.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like I wrote a lot of it down like the day after some of these dates, because a lot of the experiences were like weekend flings or like a first date gone wrong. I feel like those types of experiences, I just sat down at my computer right after and just started typing away. In terms of the more long-term things, like there was a guy I was talking to for 8 months, and then we met in LA for the first time. And that day I sensed something was going downhill, and I knew it was going to be great book content and that this was not going to turn into something. So I literally like went to the bathroom during dinner and I texted one of my best friends and I'm like, you need to keep a list tonight for me. Like, I'm going to text you under the table. Like, you're going to take little notes for me.
That's so
And,
funny.
like, just in case like this goes wrong. And it went very wrong that night. And literally after I'm not going to spoil what happens in the chapter, but after everything went down and the guy left and I knew I was probably never going to see him again, I was very upset. I was in tears. I took out my phone and I voice memoed on my phone for like an hour. Just like, okay, here's everything that just happened.
I do the
wasn't-
exact same
But the
thing.
thing is,
Really?
you really never invested. Had you ever met this young man?
No,
I'm just
it was an
curious.
8-month
What,
relationship.
over the phone?
No,
She had
no,
never
no,
met
no.
in person.
Yeah, she did. What do you mean?
Oh, you had met in person.
You're
Oh,
right.
I thought it was all about texting and
No, it was
and-
all about texting. You were
yeah,
right.
it was. I am right.
Wait, you were texting for 8 months?
They had
Yes.
never met. They had never met. Kim, you're missing the whole chapter.
What experience? I mean, what advice would you have given Carrie?
Well, I would never text for 8 months. So that would be, she and I are on a different dating page.
Wait, okay. So neither would I, but it was the pandemic,
Right.
Oh,
Right.
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 and he lived in LA,
Right.
and
Yeah,
I
I
lived in New York,
Right.
so we couldn't
It
travel.
was long distance, but those things rarely work out. I mean, I
Yeah.
could just tell you from experience, they just don't work out.
They just don't work out. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
I just needed something fun to sustain
Okay.
me through the
All right.
pandemic. So it was like FaceTime dates, and then finally
Exactly.
a chance to meet in person. And I was like, all right, this is my chance. See if anything is gonna come of it. It was just very awkward.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of tension. And then that night it was just like, I don't know, super weird. I don't want to say exactly what happens, but
Okay.
I know.
Whatever's we feel for you in that situation and for the fellow. I still think it goes both ways. It's very hard to have that kind of buildup. And then
Yeah,
this
anything
person-
is gonna fall short
Exactly,
of someone you
exactly.
made up in your head
your
for
mind.
8 months.
It is I'm looking right now. It's
Yeah.
chapter 6 and 7. He has a
Oh,
two-part
wow.
chapter.
you
Oh,
got
two chapters for this guy.
He's the only one with 2 chapters because the first one is like FaceTime dating
Right.
and everything that came with that. And then the second chapter was when we met in person. It literally
Okay.
was an entire day. Like
Okay.
it's everything that went down that day.
Okay.
I'm so excited to read. So I have to ask, I know it's only been out for a day, but have any of the guys you wrote about reached out to you yet?
Not yet, but I have posted like a bunch of promo and
Yeah.
stuff. And I think one of the guys like commented on something at one point, like someone I hadn't heard from in oh my god, like 4 years, 5
Oh my
years.
gosh.
And like doesn't follow me on Instagram or anything and just like commented to say congratulations. And I like messaged my friend and I'm like, he knows.
Little does he know.
You don't put anybody's name in any of the chapters. It's all
I
It's
changed
all-
all the names.
yeah, of
I also
course, of
deleted the
course.
comment so nobody
Exactly.
suspects anything. I deleted the comment on my post.
Oh,
Reach out. Like I've been so careful
yeah, you
about
have to
this.
be.
Hair
That's
colors
fair.
are changed, like eye colors are
oh,
changed.
interesting.
Very, very subtle things that like only I know or like
Uh-huh.
know. I think I got like random messages just from one of the guys like trying to spark conversation. And I just like don't answer.
Good idea.
Over the past, I announced my book in March. It's happened like over the past 6 months, like sporadically. I just get like random messages from a guy, like, I like your t-shirt. Or like, I don't know, like I'm gonna be in New York. Like,
Huh.
congratulations, I don't care. Like
Right. Yeah. You're on to better and bigger things.
Yeah.
I feel like any guy that I would have dated if I came out with a book like this would message me and be like, am I in the book? Like, I think people
Yeah.
make things about themselves and it's not about them at the end of the day.
It's really about your growth.
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
how you learn from each experience, which I really firmly believe, as we're dating earlier and dating more seriously earlier, each thing builds on the other until you realize now sort of I'm an adult and I can have the equipment to make proper decisions. It's all about decisions on where you think the good guy lies in your life, and get
Yes.
rid of the bad stuff.
It really is a self-love journey
Right.
in this book. Like, yes, it's fun. You talk about the guys all the time, but at the end of the day, it's about like me and my own growth and
Mhm.
what I learned. Like, it's not just a book about like my exes. It's a book about like adulting
Right.
and
Mhm.
how complex that can be. Like the last chapter of my book, I, instead of dedicating it to a guy, like dedicated it to myself. And I talk about like, yeah, I dated all these guys, but at the end of the day, like I just needed to take a step back and focus on myself and like what it means to love myself first.
Mhm.
And that's the conclusion I come to at the end of the book. And it really like brings everything full circle because that's what I was kind of training myself to do all along in this book. I was just learning to love myself.
Now, I want to ask you something on almost on a little tangent
Yes.
because I was listening to something this morning on the news. Do you think, because you were a teenager basically when you were doing this dating, you were not an adult yet, do you think that the phone and your social media had a lot to feed into the dating experience? Do you think this, because I never had the phone and I never had all this pressure from social media. And certainly as a teenager, we used to play spin the bottle and that was it. Now relationships as teens are much more serious. Do you think that you can blame any of the issues that you went through on trying to deal with social media?
Yes, I think it almost got in the way of everything from like different angles of my life. Whether that was like dating a social media guy on a social media tour, and like all those guys, for the most part, I don't want to make a generalization, but
Right.
most of those guys are like full themselves. Like their job is literally to like be a thirst trap online, and
Right.
Yeah.
it's turned out badly. But I kept coming back to them because they were hot and it was fun to date a guy with millions.
And you were in that world at the time.
I was in that world. I loved it. Like when you're on a social media tour, when you're touring the country with someone, like it's fun to attach yourself to someone. That's what it was at the end of the day. So that obviously was like not good. Even when I was dating like, common guys, like the common man, I feel like there are a lot of people who look at a successful young woman or someone with a social media following and just get scared.
Yeah.
And like Kim can probably like relate to this too. But like if you're like dating around and like on your dating app profile it has like your Instagram, and they click on your Instagram and they see you have a following,
Right.
or you have something going for you,
Get intimidated.
they get intimidated. It's awkward. Like the number of times I had guys slide into my DMs like, oh my God, you're so cool, you have such a big following, whoa. Like not hi, how are you, like hi, where are you from, no, just hi, you have a big following.
Yeah. Or even like on a first date when the whole conversation becomes about your job and you're like, why? Like, we could talk about other things as well. And like, I don't want to talk about my job the same way you probably don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, some people do like to talk about it a ton, but I understand what you're saying.
And also, it's a new industry that a lot of men, but men are in it as well. So it would be from the other side, women don't understand it either. It's a new industry that has to be sort of explained. This is a business. This is not just about taking pictures.
Right.
I mean, you can take pictures and have fun, but if you're doing it for monetary outcomes, it's a business. And it's a new thing that people have to understand is the wave of the future, just like AI is going to be the wave of the future. We might not understand it all now, but 5 years down the road, this is going to be just like working at Goldman Sachs. I mean, it's really no different. It's just different. It's a different path that people take.
That's exactly it. That's what I always say, or I always used to say to guys I was dating. It's a business at the end of the day. Like the guys don't understand that. They see the following. I think it's all glitz and glamour and all of that. But someone who's able to sit down and like be patient with you and like actually listen to like why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like it's more than just the clout and like building my following. It's really business and like a way of like earning money. Like that's something that really stood out about my boyfriend from the beginning. So when I mentioned the following, it wasn't just, oh, that's so cool, whoa, like who have you met? Have you met any cool celebrities? Like no, it was, how did you get into it? Why do you do what you do? Like how does the whole industry work? Like just genuine interest in like learning about like, the industry. Like that's the difference. That's like a level of emotional maturity. As opposed to, I tell a story in the book about like a guy I went out with from my school who on the first date asked me for Addison Rae's phone number.
Oh my God. That's a like big influencer. Yeah. Carrie, how has your boyfriend reacted to the book as well and having to read some of these dating stories that you've gone through?
It's all the emotional maturity. Like it's so evident that like I'm with such an emotionally mature man, and it's very clear, I think, to me as he's read this book. He was the first person to read it. Like at the same time my mom read it, he read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
That's fair. And how old is this gentleman that you're going out with now?
He's 25.
All right. So he's a little older and he has, so that's a good thing because he has a little maturity behind him.
Yeah,
So
I think women mature like much faster than
yeah.
men.
For sure.
So it's very clear. Like when he read it, I said to him, like, look, it's an open conversation. These were experiences I went through as a teenager, but still, if there's something you want to talk about, if there's something you want to bring up, like always open
Right.
communication, just come to me. And he was able to laugh at it, to enjoy it, just to look at it and be like, oh, some things never change.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so
I think
nice.
it's a wonderful novel for young people to read and understand that dating is a process. And
Yes,
that is really the answer. It's not, unless you could, there are some people at 14 find their one love and they stay with them forever. But in most cases, that's the
right.
rarity,
Mhm.
that you really do have to learn, and you learn by experience, and hopefully not bad experiences for the most part.
Mhm.
We don't want to say that everything that you go through is wonderful, but hopefully it wasn't, heart-wrenching. You learn, you develop, you grow, and that's what I think is so good about this book.
A lot of it is, raw and vulnerable, and sometimes it's like hard to show that part of myself to people. Like I said yesterday, like, I was at the book signing, and like I'm gonna be so real, like I was having a really hard time like reading stuff from my book and like talking about it out loud, because it's one thing to write it, like I'm a writer, but it's another thing to talk about it out
Mhm.
loud. Like I'm very comfortable on like a podcast. I'm especially comfortable with the two of you,
Right.
but if you're looking at like a crowd of people,
Of
and
strangers, right?
an interviewer is asking you like, what was it like getting your heart broken for the first time? What was it like experiencing anxiety? Like it's
Right.
just very, very hard. Like
Mhm.
like, I just love writing. Like I'm a poet. Like I put it together and I make it look pretty, and I put it out there like this. Like I don't really like talking about it as much. So it's very difficult. But I think, like, I don't know, going back to your question.
You need to,
No, I
because
feel for you in this.
right.
Like it's so relatable. You're putting your innermost thoughts and feelings out for people to read and writing it down. It doesn't leave your laptop or it doesn't leave your journal, but then it does. And like
Yeah,
I can't imagine that feeling, but I think it's going to be extremely rewarding, and you'll see that over the next, now that the book is out, that people are
yeah.
going to find it relatable and say how much it's like they've enjoyed it. And I think that'll bring, like, as scary as it is, I think the good feelings are going to outweigh that, like, anxiety, hopefully.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's going to become more comfortable as it goes on. I mean, yesterday at that book signing, I think it was just like my first one. I was
Yeah.
like, absolutely terrified. I didn't really like open my eyes and like look in the crowd and realize like my boyfriend was sitting there, my mom was sitting there, my dad was sitting there,
Your
like
support system.
my support system was there, and I don't think I
Right.
really like opened my eyes and saw that. I was just so like focused on not screwing up. And I think I just gotta like sit back, relax,
Right.
rest my
Exactly.
head.
Enjoy it. The hard work is done already. So you've done.
Yes.
So now you just have to enjoy it. And
Mhm.
my one advice to you is, don't read the comments. I say this to Kimmy all the time. There's always going to be a disgruntled reader, or it's somebody who hasn't even read the book that's going to
Yeah.
be annoyed with whatever topic you're talking about. And I really advise you not to look too much at the comments, because they're from people who are not in a happy place. I think many times some people are well wishers, but there are so many people out there that have so many other issues. They're worried about the air, the soil, I don't know, their neighbor, that they don't give you a fair chance. And so I would advise you not to look at the bad comments. Most
Yeah.
of them will be good, I'm sure, Carrie.
I don't know.
No, they will.
First
They
haters
will.
on it. I anticipate. I was on a reality show like 2 years ago,
Right.
and I wrote a chapter about like what really went down
Right.
in the reality show.
Mhm.
So I'm anticipating some bounce back from that,
Right.
because that was obviously a lot of drama.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy I did it,
Got it
because
out.
it's so freeing that that's out in the world now. Like even if nobody reads it, if nobody reads this book, it just feels so good that that's out there. Like the truth is out there. There's stacks of my book with that truth, like in the middle of a store.
Yeah.
It just feels so good.
Well, that we talked about on the last time you were on the
Yeah.
podcast.
The
The
reality show.
reality show.
Yeah.
I remember that distinctly. And I've always said that to Kim. They've got to make drama.
I put it in the book. This is as real as it gets. This is what
Okay.
happened, behind closed doors when like the cameras weren't rolling anymore. when I
Right.
was upset and I was crying, I ripped the GoPros off the wall. This is what nobody saw.
Right. Right.
Very, very happy I actually got this out there.
Great.
Mhm.
Great.
We touched for a second about anxiety and the pandemic and all of that. Do you think that your generation, our generation, is
Well, it's a little before your generation.
yeah,
It's
you're a little
your
younger than
brother's
me. You're a little
generation.
younger than me. I'm more millennial, but I'm
Right.
on the cusp.
Right.
Okay.
Don't out me.
No, no, no. I
Um,
mean,
yeah, but do you think right, the missing prom, missing
right.
graduation, all of that kind of
The
stuff, do you think that plays into the anxiety and depression and things that we're seeing amongst your age group?
Absolutely. I think for me, 2020 was extremely hard. I was turning 18 for the first time. I was graduating high school. Like you mentioned, no prom, no graduation.
It's
It was
terrible.
really, really difficult time. I got my diploma in the mail with like a little
Yeah.
sprinkled
So did
confetti
your brother.
inside, like a folded diploma, like folded in half with a little confetti in an envelope. That was it. I was all
Very
like,
depressing. It
it
was
was
very
horrible.
sad. It was very, very sad. It really was. And you
It
don't
was.
realize it. People go about their lives not realizing that a young person at 18 or 19 is really traumatized by not having those kind of rituals that have
Mhm.
been in our life forever. And we can't downplay the effects of that too much. But, it really was a very hard time.
Yeah. It was really hard. I think I didn't realize how it affected me
Mhm.
until like I talk about this in my book. Like one night I'm sitting on the couch and all of a sudden I just like, can't catch my breath. And I was, oh my God, I have COVID. And then we go to like the COVID testing center and it's not COVID. I'm like, all right, what now? Like, what's wrong with me? And my mom's like, you just might be anxious. Like, I
Right.
guess a really hard time. And to me, like anxiety was like the butterflies I get before a test or something.
Right.
Like I got no education on mental health, anxiety in school ever. So I didn't really understand what I was going through until I was, feeling all these physical symptoms for the first time and, these mental compulsions like telling me like, there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with you. And like just would not stop like, trying to put me down. So I feel like I was like in my own head, just like constantly. And I didn't know what that was. I thought like there was something seriously wrong with me. And because of that, like it took a long time to
Get
reach
out
out
of
for
it.
help,
Mhm.
to get out of it, but to like to
Mhm.
tell my parents that I wasn't okay, to tell, to tell them I wanted to go see a therapist. Like they had been telling me, but like I was scared because I feel like there's such like stigma surrounding like, therapy and like people with mental health issues. Like I thought the second I asked for help that that was like admitting there was something seriously wrong with me. And I feel like there came a point where it just like came to a head and I was like, okay, like at this point I just like miss being happy and I want to fix this.
Mhm.
So I got into therapy and I think the most important thing I learned was that there is no like fix for it. Like I was searching for something that wasn't there. Like I was searching for a light switch to flip that like made me suddenly not anxious anymore. But I think once you're educated on it and you go through anxiety for the first time, like there's no turning back.
Mhm.
And like at the end of the day, like it's kind of a good thing because it just makes you like a more emotionally rich, wise individual. Like I feel like it's like welcome to adulthood.
Yeah,
Almost.
totally agree. And then what was the experience of like managing that in your personal life, writing a book, and then also having millions of followers and having to navigate like the fun and the business of all of that at the same time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think at the time, like I was blowing up on TikTok and luckily like I wasn't getting much hate online. So social media was my escape.
Mhm.
It was almost like a serotonin boost. Like I looked at it serotonin, right? Is that the right
Yeah,
term?
yeah, yeah.
I'm like endorphin boost. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
I would retreat into the internet and there would be like millions of people online like telling me they loved me. And
Yeah, they were
like,
validating you in
right.
a time when you weren't feeling validated.
Right, like, I couldn't validate myself, so I would look on the internet and I'd see, like,
Right.
"Oh, my videos are getting millions of views, like, I'm so cool." So that was help. But at the same time, like, that didn't really matter, like, that was just, like, kind of a hobby that I focused on, but at the end of the day, when I turned my phone off and I was with nothing, I was just with myself, I didn't feel secure in myself, I felt, like, scared all the time. Even like I would always like retreat onto my Peloton bike, and I would get off and I would like pray like one day I'd get off my ride and everything would be healed. And it wasn't. Like everything would go back to how it was. So for like 6 months, I just had a really, really hard time just like praying like it would get better. Just I wasn't like talking to a lot of people. Nobody knew except my parents. Like it almost felt like I was hiding a dirty secret when it really is just something that's normalized but not talked about enough. And I think that problem is like I always say like it's just not a big problem with like the education system in this country. Like not to sound political, but like it's a problem. Like nobody teaches mental health in schools. You see like depictions of like OCD on TV as like, cleaning and like organizing things. And yes, but what else? Like there's more. There's
Well,
more.
I don't think the schools are equipped to teach regular schools, so they can't teach mental health. It almost is a societal problem that has to be fixed outside of the school system. It has to be noticed in the school system, hopefully by the educators who are in a classroom. But unfortunately, the teachers who graduated teacher school and are teaching classrooms are not really knowledgeable in these subjects. And we need more of that, like you say, in the schools. But we need a whole national health system. There's more, it's not only young people. It's look at all the people who are it's everywhere. It's the people on the street who have mental illness. We've never had such a large amount of this as we see in 2023. And I think it's basically a breakdown in our society in the norms. And we have to have some, I don't know who's going to fix it. We need it definitely, Carrie, as you say, needs to be fixed. We have a serious emotional problems out there. And it goes across the board. Young people, teenagers, 30 somethings and older Americans, which in another 5 years, there are going to be more people over 65 than under 18. So you've got an aging population that also has mental stress. So this is really a serious issue and a field that needs certainly more development and more support.
So like crazy story. I've never told this to anyone publicly yet this week. I was getting ready for my book party at like the hair salon, and next to me is the old psychologist at my high school who I never saw at the time, and like didn't really know me well. And she was next to me and she's like, "You look really familiar." And I was like, "Yeah, like you were the therapist at my old high school. I actually never went to see you, but like I wish I did at the time." Because it would have helped. And she's like, "Oh, you have a book coming out. That's so cool. What's it about?" And I like say it's about dating, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but also like the last chapter focuses a lot on anxiety and OCD. And I feel like, this really isn't being talked about at schools. Like, I mean, during my time at my high school, like I didn't really learn any of this here. I was kind of left to learn it all on my own, and it was my own responsibility. And I think I made her uncomfortable, like, because she knew. So I mentioned all this. I was like, you guys have a really important job. You have a responsibility to teach people from an early age, like what it means to have like a mental health issue, what types of mental health issues. So I'm like going on and on and on, like trying to explain to her like the responsibility she has. And it was as if it went over her head.
Correct.
It was unbelievable.
Because she's not really equipped to do it. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, this has got to be a revamping of thinking on mental health. And we haven't gotten there yet. We don't have people that are really there. There are loads of people talking about it, loads of behavioral books on the subject, but we haven't really gotten it across the country. We keep talking about it in what do you call it? Not really not in real terms. They talk about it, but they don't put it into
like
action.
In broad terms.
Exactly. They don't. Thank you, Kim.
Like,
and they need to really insert it into the school systems, into the workplace, everywhere where you're interacting with people and you have to deal with your emotional well-being. And so I get what you're saying, Carrie. I don't know the answer. I think we need to do a lot more, certainly.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess at this point we have to seek out our own help and kind of talk about it.
Easy.
It's not easy, but I think like Carrie, you're doing your part, writing about your experience and sharing and talking about it on podcasts. And at this point in time, I think that's like all we can kind of do at our level. It's a first step. It's a first
step. We need a lot more
we need
steps.
more honesty. I think what Grandma Gail was saying is like so true. Like we talk about it in such like broad terms,
right?
And you hear like go to therapy, like mental health, go mental health.
Yeah.
You're not hearing, and it frustrates me so much. You're not hearing the specific situations people are going through. When you're going through anxiety, no matter what age, what does it feel like in your fingers and your toes? What are those specific thoughts going through your head? And sometimes those thoughts are scary. Sometimes it's scary to say what you're feeling, but like that's what needs to be done. That's what I try to do in this book. Like I see everywhere, like go to therapy, blah, blah, blah. But why are we going to therapy? Like, what are those specific situations? That's what people need to hear in order to relate and to feel like they're not alone. Like, that's why it's so taboo, because people are just not being specific about like what it means to have a mental health issue.
Totally. No, that totally resonates. And I agree.
Well, let's get on to a lighter note.
I have a fun question. If my real life rom-com were turned into a movie, who would you want to play you and the lead roles?
TV show is the goal.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because I want it to be like a Gen Z Sex in the City. I feel like each episode with a different guy is okay.
Yep.
Who would I want to play me? Ooh. Let me think about this.
Well, it can't be Taylor Swift.
No.
Why?
Like
why not? She's too old now, I guess. Too.
Yeah.
I'm someone on the younger side and not too young. You know, this is very random, but for some reason, it was the first person that came to my mind. I've never met her. I think we have a lot of mutual friends. Her name is Kylie Cantrell. This is going to be.
I don't think I know who that is.
People listening to this are going to be like, "Where did that come from? You just pulled that out of a hat." I watch her. She's a singer. She's on High School Musical, the musical. I follow her on TikTok.
Oh wait, I watched that show. Who did she play?
She's on the recent season. Did you see the recent?
Oh no, I think I'm still on like season 2.
Okay,
well, then catch up, Kim.
I'll tell you why. So she can pass as young and also old. So it would be like very easy to take her through the ages.
Time jump
show, and I think I don't know. I can see her like being fun and quirky, which is like very me, but also like serious and emotional. Like I've seen those sides to her as an actress. She was lead on a Disney show. I'm trying to think of the name. Oh God.
Right. We'll Google her after.
We'll Google her. So at least you have a goal. You know someone you have in mind. So that's terrific.
Or she can audition for the role.
She can audition. Yeah. I was also thinking like a Kenzie Ziegler from like Dance Moms or something.
I have to look up all these people.
Oh my God, who else is like a good young influencer? I was thinking like Jenna Ortega is like a big like teen star, but I feel like her vibe and like my vibe just like don't match. So maybe Ortega. I don't know. I'll think about that one.
They're good options.
Think about it.
Yeah. In the spirit of rom-coms, what is your favorite?
10 Things I Hate About You.
It's a good one. Have you seen that, Grandma?
No.
Really? Why?
I don't know. It's just not on my Netflix channel right now.
It might
watch it. No, I'm much more into the murder mysteries. You know, I love every murder mystery.
Okay, well that one's not a murder.
In the Building is my favorite.
Are you caught up?
I'm just about.
I'm caught up, so I'm ahead of you.
Wait, guys, can I just say your reaction to the book is so much better than like my grandma.
Why? How did she react?
So I gave it to her. My mom's mom passed away in March, so unfortunately she never got to read the book. But my dad's mom is like, you know, she's tough. Like she likes to present herself as tough.
Okay.
So I gave her the book and I was like, all right, like, you know, read it. Tell me what you think. And she starts reading it. She's like, it's very personal.
Yeah.
And
you would say the same thing.
I understand where your grandma's coming from. You know, we talk about this all the time on the podcast, relationships and generational issues. So I'm sort of immune to any kind of thing way out there. I understand where you're coming from. But for someone who's not conversed with this subject and who doesn't talk about dating as a teenager in a serious way, it really could be a little overwhelming and not very pleasant because they don't like their grandchild or grandson in
Getting hurt.
trauma situations. It's not something
Yeah.
that you like to see, and it could be very upsetting. I mean, I'm sort of, I wouldn't know if I would have liked to have read about it when you were in high school. College already, I understood because you're an adult and you had
Interesting.
made choices. But in high school, which is when Carrie really is talking about most of these experiences, and early college, it's hard because you don't think your child is going to be up against these kind of disappointments, and you
Mhm.
don't like to see it. So I feel for her, but she has to read it and understand.
Yes, I think she was just like shocked by
Yeah, I'm sure she
how
was.
vulnerable I'm being
Yeah,
in it. Not just
yeah,
like the trauma, but just like the way I'm speaking about these experiences.
right,
She's, oh wow, like you're very open about how you felt. And I'm
right.
like, yeah, that's the point. Like that's what nobody's really doing right now. That's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted it
Mhm.
to be as raw and authentic as possible because that's what people are going to relate to. They're
Right,
not going to relate to, you know, here's how you get over your first heartbreak. Time.
Right.
right. Well,
No, people relate to the more specific you are about your experience, people
Yeah.
are going to really, even though it's like your experience and not someone else's, they're going to relate to it more than if you were broad or throwing out exactly what you were saying. Like, what,
Mhm.
make a bubble bath and light a candle. It's like, I don't,
that's the old way of thinking.
Oh.
That is the old way of thinking.
yeah.
It's so frustrating. There's a paragraph in my book, I think I posted it on Instagram about like getting over your first heartbreak. Like you can't just say like, take a bath with a candle, eat some ice cream in bed.
Right.
Right.
Sure, you can try. Sure, it might feel good in the moment, but heartbreak sucks. Like,
It certainly does, but it sucks at any age.
right.
At any age. So it's
That.
what it's not generational. It hurts when you're 16, 30, 50, 80. It's never good. So
Yep.
what you're doing is terrific for the younger generation to understand that it happened to you. It's probably going to happen to thousands of others in the same
Mhm.
situation. And it gives you a feeling that you're not alone. See, I think this is why your book is so important
Yes.
and
Yeah.
really great.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. Tell everyone how they can buy the book and how they can follow you.
So you can get the book. My real life rom com is available now on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, basically anywhere you can get books. And you can follow me on all social media at Carrie Berk.
Hope you guys liked the episode with Carrie.
And everybody should really, who has a teenage child or a young adult, should really purchase the book because it's very thoughtful. And she's a very bright young woman, has written throughout. It's unbelievable. Her career in writing has been over many years now. But this is the first time she's really putting her finger and foot into an adult topic.
Yes.
And so I think it's well worth reading. And, you just listen to her point of view. And then if you get something out of it, it's a wonderful thing. If not, you've just had an enjoyable read.
Another great episode of Excuse My Grandma. Remember to follow us. We're Excuse My Grandma on every platform. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.